that while the Speaker and I are here and temporarily hold the gavels, that we ought to raise the level of public confidence, if we can, by raising the level of public ethics. We don't believe that public office ought to be an opportunity for private gain, but it ought to be an obligation for public service. And so therefore, we have a bill that's already moving through the Florida Senate. This is a bill which will be improved upon, I'm sure, as it goes through the process and as it's considered by the House of Representatives. Nothing in the bill is divinely inspired, but we think that these essentials need to be in a stronger code of ethics that the legislature and local officials as well would abide by. First, requiring that financial disclosures be online. Everybody in this room can find Will Weatherford or Don Gaetz's financial disclosures, our Form 6s. It's not hard for you because you know how to do it. But for the typical citizen, it's a treasure hunt. We think that public officials ought to openly disclose what they owe, who they owe, and what they own. And so, therefore, part of our ethics package is to place financial disclosures online and make them easily accessible to the people of Florida. Secondly, we think that the Commission on Ethics ought to be given teeth, more authority. We've had to write off this year in the state of Florida $800,000 in uncollectible fines and penalties. People who were given a public trust violated the law, were found to have violated the law, and were fined and didn't pay their fines, and then were written off $800,000. We think that's wrong. We think that a public official, somebody who's entrusted with doing the public's business, ought to be held to the same standard as a citizen who owes money on his taxes, or somebody who is found in a court of law to owe money to somebody that they had a business transaction with. And so therefore, in one way or another, we believe it's important that fines be collected and collectible. We want to give the Commission on Ethics the teeth to go after those people, not to write off the fines, and either place liens on their property or garnish their public salaries, or both, in order to get those fines paid. We believe that state officers and, frankly, local government officials ought not to vote on issues where they have a special private gain or loss. And here's a case where the House of Representatives was way ahead of the Senate. The House rules were already where the Senate needed to be as a first step. But thankfully, the Senate, on our organizational day, adopted a rule that says that if a member of the Senate has a special private gain or loss that would inure because of an amendment, because of a bill, that has to be disclosed. It has to be disclosed in advance, and the member shouldn't vote. Now, what's happened in the past is that under the Senate rules, the old Senate rules, if somebody had a special private gain or loss, they would fill out a financial disclosure form up to 15 days after the vote was over, and nobody really saw them, and they went in somebody's bottom desk drawer. Well, 15 days after the budget has been approved and everybody's gone and out of here, that was the first time that you were legally obligated, or obligated by Senate rule, to disclose a conflict of interest. We've changed that, and we've stepped up and said, by golly, you ought to disclose it in advance, and you ought not to vote if you have a special private gain or loss. We want to put that in statute. Also, we believe that co-employment is something that really needs to be examined, restricted, and perhaps stopped. You know, it's fine when a teacher or a firefighter, or a police officer, somebody working in the state attorney's office decides that they want to run for public office, run for the legislature, and be elected and continue their public employment. Nobody would stop that, and those are just examples. That's not the only circumstances in which that would be understandable and acceptable to the public. But if you have somebody who has, and I'll pick education, who has no background, no credentials, no experience in education, for example, and they get elected to the legislature, now they're on the education committee, now they're in a position to help appropriate billions of dollars in education funds, and suddenly, miraculously, they're an education expert, and they get hired by some public education agency, a school district or a college, and they get paid $50,000 or $80,000 a year to have what in North Florida we call a walking around job. We don't think that's right. We think that people, again, ought not to use public office for private gain. Also, frankly, we believe that there ought to be ethics training for constitutional officers of the state. We don't think it ought to be okay to say, well, I didn't know that was wrong. We think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that there would be ethics training, and there will be in the Senate and in the House of Representatives as well, and we want to put it in law. There are other aspects of an ethics bill, including making sure that people can't live out of their CCEs. Now, you know, there's a question of what we're going to do with CCEs. Can we mend it, or do we need to end it? That's why we have a legislative process, multiple committee stops, and 2 chambers. But I think I can say that the Speaker and I are both committed to making sure that at the very least, and frankly the 2 of us hope we can do more, at the very least, people shouldn't be able to subsidize a filet mignon lifestyle out of a committee of continuous existence that is set up and legally established so that we can support campaigns and causes. Those are critical parts of ethics reform that we believe ought to be included in law, and we have legislation moving through the Senate right now. As well, Senate Bill 4 would allow the Commission on Ethics to initiate investigations, not just wait for a complaint, but to initiate investigations based on referrals from the Governor, the Department of Law Enforcement, the U.S. Attorney, or state attorneys. So again, these are issues that are going to be refined by the House so that we have an even better bill when we end, but these are issues that we believe need to be confronted in order to restore public trust. You know, the Congress of the United States has a 9% approval rating. I think ours is a little bit better than that. Muammar Gaddafi had a 14% approval rating when his people killed him. We really need to raise the standard of public trust.